What's up, disc golfers? Joe here with Joe's Disc Golf, and it is a jam-packed podcast just for you, and vodcast, I guess. Well, as I teased, I've got some updates coming to you for the Joe's Disc Golf YouTube channel and podcast. Got some updates here, got a bunch of fun stuff to talk about, but first, we have to talk about the sponsor, Log. What rolls downstairs? A loner in pairs rolls over your neighbor's dog. What's great for a snack and it fits on your back? It's Log. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's better than bad, it's good. Log from Blammo. Not a real sponsor. So, there we go. Got that out of the way. We're here, we're talking. So much has happened this week. So many crazy things. We had the PDGA release the Gender-Eligibility policy, effectively banning all transgender women from FPO. Pretty interesting reactions there. Talk about that a little bit later. We had Paige Shue and Barela leaving their respective companies of Dynamic Discs and Innova, with the rumor that AB is likely headed to Discraft. Who knows? I don't know. That's what someone had commented on a previous video where I talked about this. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Talking about that later. So, big changes here at the Joe's Disc Golf YouTube channel and podcast. So, what are those changes? Well, it's getting harder and harder for me to be able to record a 30 to 45 minute podcast every week just because of time. And then what ends up happening is I try to rush through that podcast. I try to hurry up and edit. There are mistakes I make, unintentional. Sometimes I say things incorrectly. Sometimes I don't spend enough on a topic. Sometimes they're just stupid editing mistakes. And I mean, I'm not a video editor. I mean, I like doing it. Don't get me wrong. I do like doing it, but you know, that's not what I've been trained in. I'm learning every video, and it is getting significantly harder here in the last couple weeks because I no longer have access really to the Adobe suite of products. It is one of the jobs that I work at. They used to pay for a basically company-wide license, and as long as you had an email that was from there, you got to use it, and it was awesome. But they're trying to save money. I don't want to pay. I used After Effects a little bit, and I used Premiere Pro, obviously a lot, and I used Audition a decent amount, and I used Photoshop a decent amount. Now I have to rework my entire workflow. I have used Premiere for a long time, and I've now switched to DaVinci Resolve, which so far has been a good experience. However, it's like switching discs. Yes, the Felon and the Captain's Raptor do very similar things, but they're not the same. As much as you want them to be the same, they're not the same. So you can get used to something really, really well. And then when you switch over, it's like, I know what I want to do. I know what I need to do, and it just doesn't work. The great thing is with DaVinci Resolve, hey, things are going good. The other thing is I'm recording videos as the news topic happens, essentially. So on Monday, the transgender policy or the gender eligibility policy was released. I was able to look that over Tuesday, record the video out on Wednesday. I talked about the Paige Shue Barela thing, was able to record that Wednesday, out on Thursday. Now I'm here talking about this stuff, and this will be a separate video, which will be out on Saturday, because I'm going to try to release the podcast, which the podcast is now going to be all the videos from the week smushed into one thing. So if you don't want to look at my ugly mug this whole time, I don't blame you. You can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Anchor.fm, which is my hosting service. So if you want to make a podcast about disc golf or video editing or underwater basket weaving, you can do that because Anchor does it for free, and it's awesome. It is awesome. Super easy to use. I highly recommend it. And through Anchor, you can easily distribute your podcast all over the internet where everyone can listen to you talk or, yell at you and make fun of you and say horrible things about you. But hey, welcome to the internet. So that's kind of changing. I will make a very concerted effort here to put in timestamps so that when this whole video comes out, if you listened to or watched one video already, you can skip that one. You can listen to just this intro part, which I'm going to be recording typically Thursday, the day before release on Friday, to upload, to summarize everything, to get it up and going. You can watch those videos individually. You could not watch any videos and just hang out and listen to this as the normal podcast form, which the podcast length will probably get longer because I talked about each topic for about 20-25 minutes. So you're looking at close to an hour of listening to yours truly, which, as I mentioned, I don't have access to Adobe anymore. So all of my super awesome, super detailed, super amazing EQs that I had for specifically my voice, and subsequently for the Half in the Bag guys, RJ and Ian, no longer have those. So I have to redo all of that, and DaVinci Resolve doesn't do as great of a job as Audition. I'll say it that way. So if things sound different, that's because they are. There is a new little intro sequence, little fire flames with the Joe's Disc Golf logo. So let me know what you think about that. But without further ado, I guess here is the rest of the show. You know what we're talking about here. And that is obviously the most important thing happening, and that is everybody changing sponsors. I kid. No, we're talking about the brand new policy just unveiled yesterday at the time of recording, the PDGA's Gender-Eligibility policy that was rolled out here Monday evening. I honestly thought that this was not going to be coming this quickly. I know they said they're trying to get it out before the 2023 season. I didn't have hope. I did not have faith. And then I would have thought they would have released this on December 23rd and just kind of sneak it under the radar and hope that nobody notices because, that's a Friday, Saturday's Christmas Eve, Sunday is Christmas Day, and for a lot of people, Monday is a holiday observed, so they're off that 26th. So you'd have a lot of time for this to fly under the radar, but good job for them, I guess. Also, I posted a tweet the other day saying I was not expecting that reaction. I was not expecting what they posted. Some interesting reactions on Twitter from that, leaving it very ambiguous. I was actually shocked that they are limiting the ability for transgender women to participate in the FPO field. Now, the restrictions are, as I understand, and I could be a little bit wrong in misreading this. I tried my best, but there's some of the rules that kind of conflict. And I mean, just ask anybody about like half of the PDGA rule book if they even read it. There's things where it's like, okay, did you mean this? Did you mean that? I mean, look at what they did with the mandatory rule this season. They changed it like 2 months after it came out. It was like, wait, whoa. We did not mean that. So I'm sure there are things that are going to be clarified here. But as I stand it, as I read it here, I will. So in a nutshell, as you can see by this article posted here at joesdiscgolf.com, you should go there and definitely check that out. The new policy. This is just in a nutshell. This is the overview, the basics here. That transgender women are allowed to compete in PDGA Pro Majors only under extremely specific conditions. If, and I'm quoting, if they begin medical transition during Tanner stage 2, this is in brackets here, earliest stages of puberty, or before age 12, whichever is later, then transgender women are allowed to compete in the FPO division. That also requires them to manage their testosterone levels and make sure that they are within a specific range, which the PDGA has announced is 2 nanomoles per liter. For reference, the average woman, the typical, you take someone off the street, their testosterone levels will be anywhere between 0.5 and 2.4 nanomoles per liter. Now, I know we're getting in the weeds. We're going nanomoles as chemistry. What are we talking biochemistry here? That's just a measurement term. So if it makes it simpler for everyone out there, PDGA says less than 2. Average woman could be anywhere from a half to 2.4, roughly. So there's a couple more spots after the decimal point, but it negligible in my opinion. You know, you wouldn't even round up to 2.5. So I say 2.4, whatever, 2.5. This is by far the strictest restriction out there, even more strict than what got a lot of attention this summer, which was the International Swimming Federation, FINA, that must be in a different language that is not English, because I don't know how to make that. And theirs is less than 2.5. So there's that. It's a little more strict than that. I don't know. This will prevent the 2 most prominent transgender women from playing in FPO, and that would be Chloe Alice and Natalie Ryan. Chloe Alice has publicly stated that she doesn't take all of her required meds, her pretty pills, as she calls them. That's on TikTok. I mean, if she was smart, she took that video down, but there's plenty of evidence everywhere, as referenced in the Quillette article. Natalie Ryan, on the other hand, seemed to be following the rules that the PDGA had set forth before. There were no admissions, straight up admissions to like, yeah, I'm just not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. But still didn't necessarily make it fair, although, as I had said before, followed the rules as they were in place. Whether those rules were right or wrong, that's a different story, but followed the rules as laid out. You know, that's just how it was. Now the rules have changed, and Natalie Ryan has to follow those rules. She posted something fun on Instagram, a couple fun things on Instagram. Those things are, well, when this first came out yesterday, she had a nice long statement posted on Instagram, and I will just go ahead and read that and comment as I go. I'm incredibly saddened and hurt by this announcement. You know, putting myself in that position, I can see that. Okay. I did everything I could to speak on behalf of inclusion, but the PDGA Board of Directors had a decision made before I ever set foot in that room. One thing is clear to me, this change was never about fairness. Yeah, I think it was. It was because, as Natalie Ryan has admitted, she's good enough to win, and she doesn't practice that much. Her words, not mine, might be paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quote. We'll get to a little bit of that quote in a bit here. If fairness was the board's only priority, they would have removed all trans women from competition. This decision sends a clear message. The board does not want to see me succeed. I call shenanigans. They don't care about local trans women or semi-pro trans women, nor masters trans women. This is about my success and their aversion to it. Or the fact that you had meteoric rise. Your form is less than stellar, and you don't practice that much, and yet you've won 2 events and place generally. There was a period of time where you did not place well that I believe was related to a hamstring injury. As stated, and I work sports medicine, so it's not unreasonable to think that when you said you pulled your hammy in the first, I think it was at Vegas, or was it at Waco? It was beginning of the year, and had a couple horrendous, absolutely awful finishes and skipped some tournaments. I assume that was to rehab the hamstring strain. After that, hey, things got better. Now, as much as I want to tell all of you to never renew your membership again, I'm not going to do that. This decision provides no resolution, since I still have every intention of winning FPO events. Going to be hard to do if you can't compete in them. I'm going to urge you stay members and fight them with your vote during the next election in 2023. We'll see how that goes. We already have one activist on the board as it stands. We can elect more forward-thinking, progressive people. We can push this bigotry out of our sport. It's not bigotry when you're, and I'm going to quote our Lord and Savior, Fauci, following the science. So they looked at a whole bunch of different stuff. There is an interview up by Ultiworld where they talk to the leading European, I believe it's the leading European expert in transgender women in sports. And as she said, and I've done a little bit of research myself, the research that is out there is garbage at best. A lot of it is incredibly small sample sizes with people, it doesn't matter which way they're transitioning, who are generally speaking non-athletes, and comparing strength results outside of that. It's just, you can't compare an average schmo off the street who's not an athlete to and expect to get data from that and then apply it to athletes in any situation, whether you're talking transgender or other people or whatever. It's that just, like, you can't do that. That's bad data. So the closest thing they got, there was an Air Force study a couple years ago, I don't remember exactly when, where they looked at 7 people pre-transition with their fitness test, with their running, push-ups, and sit-ups. The pre-transition had like a 30-something odd percent chance, or 30-something odd percent advantage, or did more or fast or whatever. After a year or two, I think it was 2 years, it was a negligible difference, but what was not cited in the study was there any training by these participants? Was this a longitudinal study with the same set of data points of comparison of the control group, the non-transition group of women? So it wasn't a good study. It was one of the better ones out there, but the bar is pretty low. You might trip over it walking through the grass. So the PDGA board chose to shrink the sport, not so much. So it is our turn to grow past their hatred and truly make the sport welcoming to everyone. Now, you can kind of interpret that a little bit as playing the victim, but not totally. It would be someone who is pissed off about a result that they are very close to. I can relate. I'm pretty sure all of you can relate. There's something that has happened that did not go your way, whatever that was. I don't know what that could be. You know, you're watching baseball and you thought it was ball and it was a strike, vice versa, whatever. That whole thing, you know, you can empathize, at least in this situation, to say like, hey, you know what? Not quite. But okay. So that was yesterday. That was Monday. This came out on Monday. Now, today, Tuesday, the day of recording, Natalie Ryan posts something else on there with a link. I really wish I didn't have to make this, but here we are. If you have anything you can donate, it will go to a long way, not just for me, but for all the other trans folk out there who strive for the top. I will fight so they don't have to. So there is a GoFundMe out there. This is for legal fees. Apparently, Natalie Ryan is looking into hiring a lawyer. I don't know if this goes anywhere. I don't, like, I'm not a lawyer. I've reached out to a lawyer and have not heard a response at the time of recording. I can update that in a pinned comment down below. If I do get a response and find that out, I'm sure there's a lot of what ifs and maybes out there because, you know, the lawyer is not going to be representing. If they are representing, then, well, they won't be able to say anything, really. So let's go on over to that GoFundMe page. So this is titled Raise Money to Fight the Anti-Trans PDGA Policy. It is not anti-trans. That's what I don't understand. This is where you lose me big time. Not that I was really ever on your side, but like, I feel for people and I want to see them succeed. However, there is the mixed pro open, which you are more than welcome to join, because there you don't have a physical advantage over the competition. So here we go. We're going to read through this because this is, Natalie. Hi, I'm Natalie Ryan, and this direct response to the anti-transgender policy soon to be implemented in the PDGA and DGPT. The policy attacks touring athletes due to my success on the 2022 tour. Blah, blah, blah. I've always been playing. Skip. This is the part that gets me. This is the part that you have made the argument for everyone who is against you. You have made this argument with this line right here. The reality is I'm not all that great, but I'm good enough to win, and that alone scared people into believing that I was some monster. No, they don't think you're a monster. I mean, there's probably like 2 people out there, because there's always someone who believes everything. Let's face it. There are 9 billion people in the world. Someone's going to believe something out there in loony. No, what they want is a fair, level playing field. And I believe it was like 75% of all touring women did not want transgender women in the FPO division. So, you might want to talk to your colleagues there. So, some of my fellow competitors decided they wouldn't work on their games and improve themselves, but instead tear me down because their games weren't complete. Wow. Are you trying to tell me that no one else on tour no one's out there right now practicing their putting, practicing their upshots, getting some reps in the field, going to a course? Look at how many disc golfers in general, men and women, have moved to warmer climates and where there is harder courses. You had Simon Lizotte moving closer to MVP. You had Haley King moved to North Carolina, Charlotte area, I believe. You had Paul Macbeth move to Florida. You had Brody move back to Texas, that whole situation. Ricky's in Arizona, I believe. And like the Mahanondo sisters are down in Texas. And Kona is from California area. I don't know if they're out there now. They got the van, or they got the RV, so they could be anywhere. And a lot of these places have RVs, so a lot of these players have RVs. So yeah. This is kind of crazy that you are going out now, you're trying to play the victim and then attack your female competitors because you say, well, they don't do any work. I'm not that great, but you don't do any work, so it doesn't matter. Like, oh, mind is blown. I don't understand. I don't understand at all. Long story short, Natalie Ryan wants to file a lawsuit with the PDGA and DGPT as soon as possible. Should this not go to trial, any of your donations aren't used exclusively for this purpose, I will be donating to the National Center for Transgender Equality so that all transgender people can live a brighter life. Whatever, you can donate your money to whatever. I don't know. I thought that there was something about that where like they can't just take your money. So donate at your own will, I guess. I don't know. I'm not. I think this is going to be interesting. She said that they didn't do their due diligence, but there were 20 or so. There's a page and a half of cited sources. So maybe fund some research into specifically disc golf or into a branch that, could benefit you and prove your point that no, you don't have a physical advantage, despite what you have said, saying that you're not that great and that you are, that your competition just doesn't want to practice to get better. So yeah, that's that. Hopefully that kind of explains some things. Hopefully that caught you up on the news of the day, gave you a little bit of my opinion. All right, here we are. We are continuing on our adventure for today. And, this intro's a little weird, but that's because, again, things at the Joe's Disc Golf YouTube channel have changed a little bit. Won't get too much into it right now, but in a later episode, yes, I will. I promise. I know I keep saying that. It's Thursday when this comes out, and I am running out of days of the week. But that's okay. Monday is the first day of the week. The weekend ends on Sunday. So therefore, your start of the week is Monday. Fight me. Dare ya. What up? So, anyway, here we are. Just talking about some fun stuff. Yesterday, that was a serious topic. That was rough. There's apparently more still going on. Some pros have taken stances and said things and done things that I haven't had a chance to look into. This is all coming up right before I'm ready to record. So, of course, I'm not prepared, and I want to be as informed as possible when I do talk about things there, but not quite there yet. So, what we are talking about today, two things. Pros leaving. Two pros. Two. One, two. I see four. Two. For those of you listening to the audio version of this, that made absolutely no sense. That was just me holding up four fingers instead of two because counting is hard. Don't worry, in my job, I only need to count to 10. That's why I have 10 fingers. But two pros have left. AB, Anthony Barela, has said that he is parting ways with Innova, and Paige Shue also announced that she is parting ways with Dynamic Discs. So, let's get into the more recent of the two. AB posted on, I think it was Instagram. He said that he had just played a tournament. I believe he said he won. I don't have it all up in front of me because this has all got lost in the shuffle because all of this happened like 2 hours before the PDGA decided to break the disc golf subreddit, disc golf Twitter, disc golf YouTube, and just break that. I won't say the internet because we love disc golf, and you're watching this because you love disc golf, and disc golf is your life. It's my life, but it's still pretty niche. I mean, there's 200,000 registered PDGA members, somewhere in there, 250,000, a couple million play, but don't like watch it like you do because you're awesome. You're a super fan. You're super duper fan. You're awesome, and I appreciate you. So posted like, hey, did this. It's bittersweet because this is one of the last tournaments or the last tournament that I'm playing that I am with Innova. So that's how he announced it. No idea where he's going. No idea what he's going to do. He did put another post up that said that, he loves the time he spent there. He spent like 9 years or something like that. He got picked up as a junior when he was 13, noticing a trend. People who've been there for a while. He's 22, give or take. Still young gun there. Looks like ancient history compared to those like Alden Harris and Gannon Burr. I mean, he is just over the hill at this point. Golly, 22? Golly. But said that, it was bittersweet. He doesn't want to leave Innova, but he has to do what's right for him. So he thanked everybody for their awesomeness and everything like that. And to my knowledge, Innova didn't say anything because they don't say anything. That's not the company they are. Right, wrong, or indifference, that's not really who they are. Somebody might have posted something by the time this comes out and I didn't see it. I apologize. Okay. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. They're just not known for their social media presence. They're not like Dynamic Discs or to a certain extent Discmania. So, it is what it is. Now, where's he going? We don't know yet. He had the opportunity to leave a couple years ago when Paul left and Adam Hammies left to go to Discraft, but he decided to stay, partly because he didn't want to be in the shadow of Paul Macbeth. He'd been called, Mini Paul, Young Paul, Little Paul. His form, a lot of his technique is very similar to Paul Macbeth. So I could understand why he wants to try to make a name for himself. And he is slowly, I would say, taking the more typical path of a pro, and where he is not just bursting onto the scene like, say, a Gannon Burr, who is just all of a sudden just like, hey, yeah, he had a good year last year, to holy crap, how is he winning so much? And he's 16, 17, right in that area. AB is kind of taking the more traditional linear path. His upside is he's going to be a fantastic disc golfer, but he's he's doing it in what I would say is a normal progression. Now, where could he go? He could go to Discraft because we don't know how much money he has been offered by somebody else. We don't know what Innova declined to match because, they're looking at his past performances and going, hey, what have you done for me lately? You haven't been winning. Not that he's doing bad. Please don't take this the wrong way. It's not that he's doing bad. It's just that he's not winning and he's not ending up consistently in the top 5, top 10, top 15. He is up there. He is doing well. And in the right courses, he is performing like a top pro. You just can't quite get over that win hump. Just gotta get over that hump. Just a little bit. Come on. I know you can do it, buddy. I know you can do it. So he could go to Discraft, but then he has to live in the shadow of Chris Dickerson and Paul Macbeth. So it could be possible. He could go there and Adam Hammies, and he could talk to Paul and Adam and go, hey, I threw this destroyer and it flew like this. What's comparable here at Discraft? This is, I threw the T-Bird that flew like this. What's the same? I threw the Firebird. I used to putt with this AVR. What's here? What do I got? What are my options? What would be the best transition to go from what I threw there to what I threw here? Now, there is speculation he could go to something like Infinite Discs. He does have a good relationship with Drew Gibson, so he could basically just keep his bag, and then if he felt like something was missing from his Innova bag, he could go, all right, I never really had a Felon. I didn't like the way the Firebird felt for whatever reason. I'm just making something up that I know is comparable, okay? At least theoretically comparable. I know. You could get all the different runs of Firebirds and they could all do 1,000 different things. But you can say like, hey, the Felon, I never, that's something that I felt like was missing. Or the Buzz, I felt like that was missing. Or the Zone, or the Harp, or insert something else. Or one of Drew Gibson's finish line discs. Or something else entirely. Maybe he wants a P2 to putt with. Maybe. I don't know. Although Innova, I guess, kind of has that, sort of, because they had all the molds. So, from Discmania, whatever. So he could go there. Lone Star Discs is an option because they've been saying now for the past 2 weeks or so, give or take, that they have a big signing coming. And they probably have some cash left over because they probably got Nico for pretty cheap. Because, let's face it, Nico's stock was not that great because of what happened with the suspension and everything. Now, he doesn't have that suspension. He probably fetches a pretty penny. He's also probably still with Clash Discs and Gateway at the same time, but not so much anymore. So they probably have some money to throw around. He could go to Prodigy, join the young guns that are over there. The, Alden Harris and Kevin Jones, who's not really a young gun, and Gannon Burr. He'd be in Gannon's shadow, but you never know. He could go to MVP. He could be kind of in the shadow of James Conrad, but James Conrad could be a pretty solid mentor because Conrad is a fairly solid player. He's a solid player. Like, he isn't flashy. He isn't up there winning. But if you look at his top 10, top 15 finishes, he's up there a lot. And he does well. So there's that. He could go to Discmania and live in the shadow of Simon Lizotte, who's kind of half touring. Eagle McMahon, who the hell knows what he's doing next year for a tour. He skipped most of this year. Could he come back next year? I don't know. I hope so. He's been pretty silent in terms of, what's going on in his life there. He could be, Dynamic Discs / Latitude / Westside. I don't know what kind of money they have. Dynamic Discs, you only got Ricky at the top on the men's side. There's kind of a big gap there that he could fill between your top tier and then that second tier down. He could go there if Dynamic Discs can afford it. Or they could lump him in, like, say, Westside Discs. I think they have some money. They have Matty O there. Great player. He could go to Latitude 64 and kind of work out on their on the US side, they don't have much going on. They don't. I mean, they've got great European players who can come over here, but who knows? I don't know. Some of the states here in the US are starting to lock down again, or at least some of the cities. So hell if I know what's going on. They could some European countries could do that too, maybe not. We don't know. So, what is the most likely scenario? I don't know. I've got this feeling that he's going to be tripping over to some LSD, Lone Star Discs, or Lakeshore Drive. So there's kind of my thoughts on that one. I don't know. That's kind of what it seems. We'll see here. Beginning of January is going to be interesting. As pointed out by Brody on the Debate Night podcast, he said it, and I agree with it, and I didn't realize I agreed with it, or was even thinking this until he said it. You have one of those moments where you're just like, I think exactly that. I had no idea. Like, you didn't realize how much you hate the Green Bay Packers until someone says, I hate the Green Bay Packers. And then you go, yeah, Packers suck. They're awful. They're terrible. The Bears. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly how it went, but like, there's a trend of players in December, this year at least, saying like, I am not going to be with this company anymore. I am changing sponsors. Tune in January. Now, for those of us in the disc golf media, the disc golf news, the journalists, this is the fun time. This is where you go, all right, AB's leaving, Paige Shue is leaving, a whole bunch of other people are starting saying like, hey, I am leaving X company. Come back in January. Now I've got plenty of content. I've got content to talk about crazy speculation, like moving on to Paige Shue, who had been with Dynamic Discs forever and a day. I believe like 13 or so years. Her dad is the president, I believe, at Dynamic Discs. Her mom also works at Dynamic Discs. I don't know if she has any siblings. They probably work at Dynamic Discs or are associated with Dynamic Discs somehow. She announced that she is leaving. And in the social media post, in the video that Paige Shue posted and a separate video that Dynamic Discs posted, it sounded like an amicable separation. Like, hey, it was a good run, 13 years, world championship. Good job. Hate to see you go. We'd love for you to stay, but hey, that is what it is. Things change. We change, and it goes on. That's what it seemed like. Then she did an interview with Charlie and Josh on the Upshot, where she let a few things trickle out and allowed us to speculate. And I don't think any of it was intentional, because she had mentioned that there is no contract signed yet. They're still working out the details, and she doesn't want to say anything. She can't say anything because there is like nothing to say. And if she says, hey, I'm working on a contract with X, then that probably could screw things up somehow, some way, some shape and form. Okay. Now, we've got some options here. Some things that she said first. She, as Brody put it, and again, I agree with this, during that podcast, she never threw them under the bus, but she did kind of give them a nice little hip check. Basically like, hey, these are the things I didn't like. She had to run so many events, had to do so many signings, had to have certain social media presence and posts and all that kind of stuff. And she didn't like doing that. She didn't like the fact that there was long lead times on trying to get discs from Latitude 64, who manufactures all of Dynamic Discs. But, that's something that all of those players have to contend with. If you want something that isn't in stock, you're going to have to wait, which sucks. And who knows how much of this has to do with like the COVID stuff and all that, because 2018 World Championship, 2019 went well, got pregnant, had a baby, stayed home, COVID, all that stuff. Being a mom, good for her. That's awesome. Like, I don't know how she managed to do the tournaments and stuff as a mom and with her kid and all that stuff. Like, I hats off, a tip of the cap to you, my good lady. because that's impressive. I could not imagine spending that much time away from my daughter. So I can only imagine what it's like for a mom to do that. So yeah, there is that. So she didn't like some of those things that Dynamic Discs had her do. And she did say that she didn't even give Dynamic Discs a chance. She said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, that she just went out and found someone and didn't even come back and say, like, hey, I went to X company and they're offering me this money. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. And they're giving me an RV, or they're paying for all my gas for my RV and paying for half of it or something, whatever. Didn't even go out, get an offer, come back and say, hey, this is what I got. Can you match it? If not, toodles, peace, deuces, whatever. I'm gone. No, she said, no, I'm just gone. I'm gone. She didn't like it. And I'll be curious. I'm curious what, I'm guessing the things she mentioned in that podcast were the things she really didn't like, but I'd be curious, what's going on there. So, things that she said that we're going to use to try to do some internet sleuthing to find out who she's going with. Now, right off the bat, she said that she hated waiting for all of her discs and how they had to travel from outside the US. So that immediately eliminates Castoplast, Discmania. I don't think she'd make a lateral move to Westside or Latitude. Lateral move to Latitude. But theoretically, those are all gone. Clash discs also out. Now, I'm only going over like the big ones that I think could afford to put her up. Something else she said, that her and her husband would be going to the same place. That's the way she made it sound, and it could be just that they're sharing this RV or they're sharing whatever, because she did say that they're going to get an RV. Now, something else she said, that the company had better consistency than Dynamic Discs. Now, in my opinion, Dynamic Discs has some of the best consistency. Now, so that can immediately rule out Innova, because let's be honest here, Innova is known for their inconsistencies. If you want a destroyer to do just about anything from being crazy overstable to crazy understable without ever having to beat it in, you can find it. You can go, I want this run of this plastic of this one, of this tour series, and it'll probably do something like that. I want the Heimberg destroyer. I want something beefy. I want the General Champ one, the General Champ destroyer, and it'll do something. It's all that kind of stuff. That was one of the big reasons why I stopped bagging Innova, as a side note, because of their inconsistency. Because I would throw it, I'd love a boss, and I'd throw it, lose it, buy another one, flies completely different. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, I had a couple times, like, oh yeah, I had that boss for like 2 years, 3 years. Okay, whatever. No, I had this one for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Barely hit any trees. Not enough to make it that big of a difference. So we can immediately rule out Innova. So who does that leave left in the US manufacturing? Prodigy, Gateway, Mint Discs, Lone Star Discs, MVP, and Prodigy. Did I say Prodigy? I can't remember. Either way. So Gateway, Mint Discs. I don't think I would put Gateway in the same consistency category as Dynamic Discs. I'd say they're close, but tomato, tomato. But I don't think it's Gateway. Just something about it doesn't say Gateway. Mint Discs, I don't think they have a full enough lineup yet. I still think they have a few holes in their lineup of discs. So I don't think that Paige Shue would go there. I could be wrong. I have only thrown one disc from there, and it was great. I love the plastic. It reminded me a lot of like the Tournament X from Westside, or the like hybrid stuff from Dynamic Discs, but also felt like the Royal line. It was very polished, very smooth, very nice disc. So I could put that up there. It's a possibility, but I think there's enough holes in that one where I don't know if it would happen. Lone Star Discs has said they are teasing some big announcements coming in January, but I also don't think they have enough discs yet. Could be wrong. I don't know about their consistency either. So, kind of out. Discraft is another one that I think I completely spaced on. Um, I don't know if Paige Shue would go there because of if she wants to really step out, and she was on a great climb in her career path. I don't know if Paige Shue wants to go into the shadow of Paige Pierce and Missy Gannon. So I don't know. I could be wrong. They gave Chris Dickerson an RV. Could be the same thing. Roommates. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. Um, there's also that leaves kind of Prodigy and MVP. Now, MVP on the women's side, you'd have to contend with Sarah Hokum and Madison Walker. Maybe, Sarah Hokum, still a good disc golfer, still throwing the same shots, getting the similar scores as she was in years past. It's just the field has gotten so much stronger. She has to work even harder to get back on top. But still, that could be an option there. Maybe, maybe not. She did say that the discs have unique flight patterns and unique flights. Gyroplastic, pretty unique. Nobody else really does the overmold. So MVP could be it. They could be still sitting on a pile of cash from all the Conrad commemorative discs that they had there. And MVP, they make some good plastic. They make some consistent plastic. They have a full lineup. Could be it. I'm leaning towards Prodigy, for the simple fact that Prodigy currently does not really have an FPO presence. Now, before you say anything, I know Heather Young, but hear me out. Heather Young's last tournament was the Tennessee State Championship. That was the first weekend in June. Before that, she had played Texas State Championship at the end of March. And that's the end of her year. Her year ended in June. And honestly, she played all those tournaments. She went LVC, Waco, Belton, Texas State's. That was it. Trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. So who knows? I mean, she could be there. If she is, she's a fantastic disc golfer. I'm not trying to take anything away from Heather Young. I'm just simply stating the fact that she didn't tour last year. She just stopped because she didn't know if she wants to do disc golf at this level anymore. It's changed so much in the last couple of years. So Prodigy, if Heather Young has decided to completely step away, as far as I know, at the time of recording here, December 14th, 2022, she is still listed on the Prodigy website. So I can only assume that she's still under contract, and maybe she's going to tour next year. Maybe this time off was what she needed, gets her head on straight, and goes. Who knows? So Paige Shue, I think Prodigy would roll out the carpet for them. And on the men's side, yes, they're stacked. And her husband is also a touring pro. He's 10-10 rated. He's good. Don't get me wrong. Kick my ass any day of the week. But compared to who Prodigy has on the MPO side, he's not going to be anything special. But they could look at it as like, all right, we can get Paige Shue, and basically signing her husband is part of the sign-on bonus kind of thing. They could. Because at least the way she phrased it in the interview is her and her husband are going to the same place. Who knows? I don't know. I want to know what you think, so you got to sound off in the comments down below. All right, so there were a few things that I forgot to talk about in this little bit earlier segment that I happen to tend to agree with. I missed this because I didn't write any notes. Well, I wrote some notes. I didn't write enough notes because, kind of ran out of time trying to get everything all set and squared away. So one of the things that Natalie Ryan did say or post or whatever, however you want to say it, was that there are different rules for different levels of competition, with majors and DGPT events following one set of rules, and then A tiers and below, basically everything else, following a different set of rules. I kind of glanced over that. I saw it. It didn't make sense to me. I was listening to a different podcast. I can't remember which one. I think it was the Nick and Matt show. And that that kind of clicked. I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. So I will say that Natalie Ryan does have at least a little bit of a valid point there of like, hey, why is this different for pros versus AMs? One of the thoughts that I have is on the pro side, the DGPT side, the people who compete at the majors, this is for their living. This is for that. So, and amateurs, it's for recognition and a whole bunch of plastic basically in a trophy. So I'm not saying I'm trying to think of reasons why it would be different. I don't know. I would actually be curious if somebody has an answer or another logical conclusion to that. That would be fantastic. So I would like to see some consistency between the two levels. I did go back and look at some of the results, seeing maybe this is a member-led organization, and it was very obvious that the DGPT women did not want that, did not want transgender in FPO. And I looked at AMs and maybe thought like, hey, maybe it was like only 45% said that they didn't want it. No, it's 55%. So I don't know. I was like, well, maybe there was something there where it was like AMs versus pros. On the Nick and Matt show, they did bring up the point of like, hey, this is their living. This is a way they make their living, the pros, MPO, FPO. And maybe it'd be interesting to see how the AMs might have changed their opinion if this had to do with their if this was their livelihood essentially. So I don't know, just a little more food for thought. Thought I would get that out there. Thought I would, kind of make it, make it known that there was more to it. I'm sure I'll think of some more stuff. Probably come out with another video. I don't know. I'm trying not to beat a dead horse. So I am trying to, with this topic specifically, only come up with videos when there's something valid to talk about. I'm not just going to get up here and make video after video on just talking, just blowing hot air, essentially. So when something substantial happens, say a lawsuit or a rule change, clarification, whatever, then I will talk about it. Other than that, I don't know. I'll just keep monitoring it. If you guys see anything, hear anything, let me know. Shoot me a message either at contact@joesdiscgolf.com, or you can join the Discord server in the link in the description below, or hit up joesdiscgolf.com. Links all there, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. So there you go. That's the episode. Talked about a lot. Talked about speculation of where Anthony Barela is going, where Paige Shue is going, the whole saga, the drama, the beginning of whatever the whole transgender eligibility process for the pros is. I say drama, saga, ongoing because let's face it, this is going to be a long time. This is going to be something that's brought up at least a handful more times before Las Vegas and then at Las Vegas. So there you go. That's it. As always, I've been Joe. You've been awesome. And if you get a great tree kick, don't forget to thank Treesus. And if you get kicked deeper in the woods, that's because you need to repent and reflect because you have transgressed against Treesus. So, can't wait to see you all in the next video.